This is Kamlesh Pattni. He's just out from the court. He seems tense, like he's running away from something.
Good morning, Kamlesh.
Yes, he's running away from one of the greatest financial scandals in the history of Kenya.
Mr. Pattni, you say you wanted to make Kenya a prosperous country. You wanted to make it the Switzerland of Africa. What went wrong?
We want to bring back accountability, transparency in public office.
Kamlesh, you know you're a thief. This man is a thief. You may get away, but you know you're a thief. You're an economic thief, and you know you're a thief. Our generation will jail you. He's a thief. This man is a thief. You are a thief. You're a thief, and you know it. Kamlesh is a thief. You're a thief. This guy's a thief. He stole billions of taxpayers' cash. Shame on you.
Pattni.
The court had that on the 19th of April 1993, Arab B instructed Nether to credit the account of the National Bank of Kenya with 413 million shillings, Post Bank with 500 million shillings, and Trust National Bank with 400 million shillings.
More than $1 billion of Kenyans' taxpayers' money had been siphoned through Goldenberg Company.
Our generation will jail you. You're a pastor. You're a thief.
We who are redeemed and born again shall be bound by fear of nothing.
This is the story of one of the biggest financial scandals in the history of Kenya. Goldenberg started their business in offices at View Park Towers in Nairobi Central District Center. They also opened their first bank account with American Bank, the bank owned by Samia Investment, and which Kanyotu, Director of Security Intelligence, was also a director in the bank. Now, take a good look at all this tech connection. This was a rock-solid foundation for Goldenberg to start their campaign. Suspicion rose right from the beginning when Goldenberg started its operation. When they were given the green light, the company submitted its first CD3 returns, claiming that it had exported gold and diamond jewelry. Within April 1991, Goldenberg Company presented to its banker, First American Bank, 9 CD3 forms. The bank was supposed to confirm that foreign fund exchange received and submit to the returns to the CBK together with the funds given by Goldenberg customers overseas. From the drill, the CBK will then approve the form and Goldenberg could claim compensation from the Ministry of Finance. However, CBK and First American Bank were quick to notice that Goldenberg did not comply with the terms they signed with the Central Bank of Kenya and also exchange control regulation. The problem was that although Goldenberg claimed to have exported gold and jewelry to two specific firms overseas, which was Savino Security Inc. Corporation and Solitaire of Switzerland, payments were not received through normal interbank transfers. Instead, the banks noted that Goldenberg earnings were accounted through direct cash deposit transactions, which were in various currencies such like US dollars, British pounds, Swiss francs, French francs, Italian lira, and Japanese yen. The bank suspected that Goldenberg filled the CD3 forms, lying to have exported product, then bought cash on hard currencies on black markets and deposited to the Goldenberg account as payment. Other times, they even faced challenges raising foreign currencies, as the government had made it hard for black market foreign exchange business, and even in their business day, it's alleged that they even had to wait for days to fill a CD3 form. Sometimes they even gave unbalanced CD3 forms that didn't match with their purported exported diamond and gold jewelry. Even after Goldenberg had breached exchange control regulation and its agreement to CBK, the Ministry of Finance paid export compensation to the company after its claim. The governor of CBK at the time, Eric Kotut, was alerted by TK Biraj Karuna, the exchange controller, that Goldenberg claim for export compensation was processed and paid, even though the company failed to comply with the exchange control regulation and also contract signed between them and CBK. It was clear that people could see smoke from the scheme, that to avoid fire, Pattni even tried to convince authorities that Goldenberg should be exempted from producing their CD3 form as CBK to claim their compensation. Eric Kotut directed First American Bank to ensure all earnings from Goldenberg were properly accounted for. Despite all the red flags raised about Goldenberg transaction, the company became more powerful and it succeeded in manipulating authorities in its favor. For example, First American Bank had a problem with how Goldenberg accounted for its unreal foreign exchange earning, which was irregular, because under Exchange Control Act, only banks were permitted to handle foreign currencies. But instead of the government and authorities stopping this illegality, the CBK went ahead and issued a foreign exchange dealer's license to Goldenberg on 18th April 1991. The Central Bank of Kenya made history and breached its own regulation by granting a dealer's license to a trading company that was not a banking business, thus playing a significant role in facilitating Goldenberg transaction. In May 1991, Goldenberg opened another account with Nairobi branch Citibank, a subsidiary of Citicorp of the United States, because it had started to have problem with the First American Bank. Citibank quickly realized that they cannot deal with this kind of transaction in which Goldenberg was involved. The bank became alert when Goldenberg submitted one CD3 form purporting to have exported goods, 186 million Kenya shilling, which was equivalent to $6.6 million in a single consignment on the same day without documents to support the export. Citibank grew in concern and they contacted CBK on how to handle this issue, but CBK replied they are not exempted and Goldenberg should ensure all documents were properly accounted for just like any other exported. Goldenberg had grew in laxity as they thought they were above the law. They even started invoicing their client in shilling instead of foreign currency in their purported CD3 forms. This alerted Cheriot, the Commissioner of Custom Exercise, who then notified the Ministry of Finance and CBK that the company did not comply with some regulation. These issues raised by CBK and Custom could have prompted Citibank to stop dealing with Goldenberg. In 1992, Goldenberg opened another bank account with government-controlled bank, Kenya Commercial Bank, and also another account at Delphis Bank, the Pakistan-based bank, which collapsed with debt of over $10 billion worldwide. Goldenberg transaction expanded and they started dealing with big transactions, and by early 1992, the company was licensed to open a commercial bank in the name of Exchange Bank. This was effective to Goldenberg so that they can deal with difficulties they experience with other banks. Banking license power in Kenya were issued by the Ministry of Finance on recommendation of the Governor of CBK. So the decision on approval of bank rested on Minister George Saitoti and Governor Eric Kotut. The measures were designed to enhance banking prudence and strengthen financial sector, following a series of serious banking crises between 1986 to 1989. The formation of Exchange Bank was the real key player and turning point for Goldenberg scandal. This meant that all Goldenberg transactions and accounts were handled by one bank which they owned, and nobody will suspect and subject them to scrutiny like the previous bank they associated with. This marked one of the biggest money laundering operations in Kenya and probably the whole of East Africa. Goldenberg, again with the help of authorities, exploited various opportunities that were said to benefit Kenyans. The first was the pre-shipment export finance scheme. This was a scheme launched by the CBK in 1989 to provide finance to Kenyan exporters of non-traditional goods who did not have sufficient funds to finance their manufacture and preparation of their export. It was more like a loan from the CBK to help you finance your export, on which you are supposed to pay back within 3 months. However, the scheme turned into a money laundering operation for Goldenberg, which they siphoned funds directly from the CBK through few banks. In one major transaction in January 1992, Goldenberg applied to CBK for a pre-shipment finance loan of 185.8 million Kenya shillings to help them process diamond jewelry export to Savino Security of Geneva, Switzerland. The application was approved and money was sent to Goldenberg account at Delphis Bank. The application indicated that the export will be shipped out by 30th March 1992, but at this date approach, Goldenberg extended the shipping date to July, arguing that it was the importer's request. Available records showed that Goldenberg did not export the diamonds and the money they took as pre-shipment was not paid back. They also advanced and took another pre-shipment finance of $18 million, which was sent to Goldenberg account to a state-controlled bank, which was known as National Bank of Kenya. Record also showed that no action was taken to recover the funds. Goldenberg also benefited from another scheme launched by the CBK in the name of dealing with foreign exchange crisis. In 1992, the CBK issued a foreign exchange certificate known as the Forex C, whose main goal was to give importer like Goldenberg access to foreign currencies from the market. This meant that people dealing with foreign currency in the trade market could trade directly with Goldenberg. It was also for the first time that Kenyans were allowed to handle and trade foreign currencies without any risk of being prosecuted. The beneficial part of this scheme was that anyone with foreign currency could buy Forex Cs from the CBK and trade them at Nairobi Stock Exchange or at a private auction so as to create secondary market for the paper. But the scheme was widely abused by Goldenberg, Exchange Bank, and a few players that CBK abolished it in 1993. Available records now show that Goldenberg and Exchange Bank were indeed controlling Forex C market and were manipulating trade in their favor. When the scheme was shut down, Exchange Bank was left holding $132.9 million worth of Forex Cs on Goldenberg account that a deal was tracked where the CBK redeemed all of them at a 15 Kenya shillings per dollar. A major of these proceeds were used to pay debts that Exchange Bank owed CBK under an agreement signed by Kamlesh Pattni and Mika Chiserem, who was now the governor of CBK after Eric Kotut resigned under pressure in July 1993. Something astonishing is that money used to buy the Forex Cs was from the Compensation Act proceed. Exchange Bank was finally closed in September 1993, and records indicated that it was holding treasury bills of $100 million on Goldenberg account. Similarly, like the Forex Cs used to repay debts to CBK, these treasury bills were used to repay part of Exchange Bank debts to CBK. From mounting pressure and investigation from the government to stop money laundering operation, it emerged that Goldenberg had executed the largest single financial fraud in a record time of less than 3 months. Key players again were Goldenberg and Exchange Bank, which transacted $900 million in 3 deals that involved pawning money directly out of CBK. In the first deal, Exchange Bank and 4 politically controlled banks fraudulently obtained $530 million from the CBK. The deal, which was only done in 4 days from 2nd to 6th April 1993, involved Postbank Credit, Pan-African Bank, Delphis Bank, and Transnational Bank. The money swindle was designed to cover up Pan-African Bank, which was threatened with closure for failing to pay a huge overdraft at the CBK. Almost $265 million was lost through transaction with Exchange Bank, which was discovered after it shut down its doors to customers. The second deal involved again Exchange Bank laundering approximately $210 million, which was stolen out of the CBK by Goldenberg from April to July 1993. Exchange Bank lied that they have received $210 million from Goldenberg after they sold diamond and gold jewelry. The CBK credited Exchange Bank $210 million, which was equivalent to 13.5 billion Kenya shilling in a system law called forward contract. An audit later revealed that no funds were deposited through Exchange Bank, and 2 senior CBK officials were involved in executing the deal, namely Job Kilach, the director of CBK Foreign Exchange Department, and Michael Wanjihia Onesmus. The 2 also were involved in a cover-up scheme which the IMF questioned imbalance in the CBK account. The 2 arranged with Bank Indosuso Gemaval and American Express Bank branch to open up a CBK account in London in the name of National Deposit. The CBK account of Indosuso Gemaval was credited $100 million, while the American Express was credited $110 million. The funds were to remain there from June to December 1993 to balance book at the CBK, as IMF and World Bank were up their neck to prevent money laundering outage. The third deal was a direct transfer of $100 million from CBK to Goldenberg account in Kenya Commercial Bank, which was conducted under 3 installments on specific instruction issued by Dr. Wilfred Karuga Koinange, who was then the permanent secretary at the Treasury. By early 1992, there was suspicion that Goldenberg was not a genuine exporter and was just looting funds through the Export Compensation Act. The Goldenberg deal drew public attention in 1992 when the Daily Nation published the first story on Goldenberg's gold and diamond export activities and their abuse in the pre-shipment export finance scheme. The article also drew attention to Goldenberg authorities who were facilitating transactions. They quickly denied that Goldenberg was not involved in any graft and it was a genuine exporter. Dr. Wilfred Keruga Koinange issued a statement that Goldenberg had earned $50 million since it embarked on the pilot export scheme. This was followed by Government Auditor General DG Njoroge questioning the illegal payment of $9 million export compensation to Goldenberg by both Ministry of Finance and Custom Excise Department. This drew an uproar and the matter was discussed in Parliament as they questioned why Goldenberg was entitled to get 35% while other exporters got 25% of export compensation scheme. Saitoti replied that it was legal because it was approved by the Parliament. This drew insecurity and political shake-up as the government was trying to conceal and defend the Goldenberg graft. Then Moi went ahead and changed the cabinet in 1992, replacing Saitoti on the Ministry of Finance with Musalia Mudavadi, and Saitoti was given the Ministry of Planning and National Development. The government defense mechanism finally fell apart in June 1993 when Central Bureau of Statistics and the Ministry of Planning and National Development published a report on 1993 by Economic Survey, which was ironically released by Saitoti, that showed that there was no records of gold and diamond exported by Goldenberg. Then later, the World Duty Free, which was associated with Kenya Duty Free, also denied importing gold and diamond jewelry from Goldenberg, which was the same case with the consignment shipped to Switzerland, Savigno Securities, and Solitaire. More and more allegations about how Goldenberg was fake was being brought to the table, and they even came to a conclusion that the gold and diamond that they claimed to export was being smuggled from Kenya's neighbor, Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi. The House of Cards was falling apart from the report from Saitoti and Auditor General. The last silver bullet was from IMF, who had a special audit that revealed Exchange Bank and other 5 banks implicated irregular deals, which was commissioned by CBK and Price Waterhouse.
Ng'ethe, who had been the funds manager at the Kenya Commercial Bank when the scandal took place, revealed to the court how the bank's former general manager Elijah Arap B instructed him to transfer the 5.8 billion shillings to 5 different banks. The court had that on the 19th of April 1993, Arap B instructed Ng'ethe to credit the account of the National Bank of Kenya with 413 million shillings, Post Bank with 500 million shillings, and Trust National Bank with 400 million shillings. The same exercise was carried out in the 1st of July 1993, with KCB crediting 1.4 billion shillings to Delphis Bank.
Although the report was not made public, it triggered a domino effect of things falling apart. The first was on July 18, 1993. Musalia Mudavadi ordered the liquidation of Exchange Bank. Days later, Eric Otut, the CBK governor, resigned and was replaced by Mikar Cheserem. Later on, investigation by Price Waterhouse revealed that Exchange Bank and Goldenberg were at the center of extensive money laundering with other politically connected banks. The revelation was a turning point for Goldenberg saga. The Attorney General, Amos Wako, faced immense pressure to start prosecution of those involved. But he always dodged the question, arguing that there was not enough evidence and the police are still investigating. The Law Society of Kenya took up the matter and gave Amos Wako until 31st August 1993 to prosecute those associated with the scandal, but he failed. The money he regularly paid to Goldenberg, combined with the funds that poured into the economy during the 1992 election, was reported to have caused damage to the economy and also inflation. Kenya was on a phase of economic crisis and CBK had to take serious measures to clear the excess money that poured into the economy. The painful measures made poor Kenyans poorer. It became a hard job to trace records of how much money Goldenberg really stole after they shut down their operation. What was evident to most people is that the money was used to finance 1992 election and to pay debts in 1993, but there was more to that. The proprietors of Goldenberg acquired multiple assets such as Pan-African Bank and its subsidiaries, which include Pan-African Building Society, Uhuru Highway Development, and Safari Land Lodge, which the founder of the bank was Mohammed Aslam, who was also a beneficiary of HZ Group companies, which won government tenders favored by the Moi regime. Goldenberg also acquired Meridian Hotel, which was renamed to Grand Regency Hotel, and they transformed it into a 5-star hotel after renovating it at an estimated cost of over $100 million. It's still a mystery of how many assets Goldenberg company really acquired. When President Kibaki came into power, he appointed the Commission of Inquiry to investigate the Goldenberg affair.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Fellow Kenyans, I am inheriting a country which has been badly ravaged by years of misrule and ineptitude.
Kenyans thought justice would be served and the culprits would face the law after they plundered public funds.
Good morning, Chairman.
Kamlesh, you know you're a thief. This man is a thief. You may get away, but you know you're a thief. You're an economic thief, and you know you're a thief. Our generation will jail you. He's a thief. This man is a thief. You are a thief. You're a thief, and you know it. Kamlesh is a thief. You're a thief. This guy's a thief. He stole billions of taxpayers' cash. Shame on you. You may buy the courts, but we'll jail you in a generation because you're a thief. Kamlesh is a thief. You're a big thief. And you know it. Kenyans know you stole billions and you got away. Huh? You're been a pastor. You're a thief. You may buy the courts, but you know you're a thief. He's a thief. And you know it. He's a thief.
But after calling more than 100 witnesses to testify and spending more than $20 million of taxpayers' funds, the Goldenberg Commission turned into a circus, as most suspects claimed that what they did was under instruction of Moi.
Praise the Lord.
Why? You can praise your Lord in whichever way you wish, and I'll praise mine in whichever way I wish.
To the relevant questions, please.
If that is your reply,
That is my reply.
then God is watching you.
I hope he's watching both of us, Mr. Pattni.
Children are faces of God, and it's there in Mark 10:13-16. Some people brought children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them.
Yeah.
Even if you come, I will not refuse you.
God forbid.
For me.
On 283.
283, Kisii, Nyachai, 98 to 981,000 plus 20,000 shillings. Nyamira, Nyachai, 459,000 plus 20,000. Why are you omitting them?
Well, there is a mosquito down here.
The former President Moi refused to testify in the courts. Year in, year out, it was a prolonged court battle between the accused and the justice system. Kamlesh Pattni, who was the center of the scandal, most of his companies and assets were targeted by the government.
The scenes that traders and workers of 10 duty-free shops at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport woke up to Thursday morning, the aftermath of a late-night demolition ordered by the Kenya Airports Authority at the shops that had been leased to businessman Kamlesh Pattni. Scenes that were too much to bear for some of the traders, with reports indicating that the eviction was extended to shops that had been leased to Pattni at the Wilson Airport, as well as the Moi International Airport, Mombasa.
Jus Saitoti, who was also accused and was the education minister at the time, also faced the law. Saitoti resigned from his office position, and Justice Bosire ruled that he should face criminal charges.
I have today accepted the request by Professor George Saitoti to step aside for his responsibilities as a Minister for Education, Science and Technology in order to pave the way for investigations into the issues raised in the report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the Goldenberg affair.
David Munyakei, who also worked at the Central Bank of Kenya and also was the whistleblower of the scandal, was jailed for some time. He lost his position at work at the Central Bank of Kenya, moved to Mombasa after fearing his life might be in danger. He spent the rest of his life poor and unemployed until his death in August 2006.
The High Court last year absolved former Central Bank Governor Eric Kotut of any wrongdoing in the Goldenberg affair. However, Kotut had a criminal case related to the multi-billion shilling scandal pending at the Magistrates Court. The Magistrates Court has now discharged Kotut from such proceedings.
From the Justice Department, it was a cycle loop of blame game and a sucker show that even Kamlesh Pattni got a chance to be hosted in TV shows.
We return to an older scandal in which the country lost billions of shillings. With me in the studio is Mr. Kamlesh Pattni, a man who would like to be known as a generous philanthropist, but has been indicted by a Judicial Commission of Inquiry as a principal architect of the multi-billion shilling Goldenberg scandal. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
You almost single-handedly brought down the economy of this country. How do you feel about that? How much money was lost in Goldenberg? Was it 60 billion, 100 billion, 20 billion?
From Goldenberg itself, it was a genuine business.
The involvement of the Central Bank of Kenya with Goldenberg International lost this country some amount of money.
Yes.
Now, how much was it?
The money which was lost was by Central Bank through these other dubious banks like Trade Bank, Pan-African Bank, which banks were used by the Central Bank that time.
How much money was it, sir?
They lost, what was lost was 6.3 billion in Pan-African, and in Trade Bank about 5 billion.
That makes 11?
11. But as far as Goldenberg is concerned, what Goldenberg got was legitimately applied for in writing.
What is the truth?
The truth is that I presented all the things. I said what the previous leadership, because I was not the president at that time, I was not governor, I was not a minister, anything in this. I have said it plainly that it was the leadership of the government at that time.
Mr. Pattni, you say you wanted to make Kenya a prosperous country. You wanted to make it the Switzerland of Africa. What went wrong?
That time the people, the government at that time, usurped and dumped all their messes on my Goldenberg.
Who in government usurped your project?
I have mentioned them. I said it starts from the leadership at that time, the governor of Central Bank.
Exactly? The leadership was about 200 people.
The then President Moi.
President Moi, the
then,
governor.
Joshua Kulei.
President Moi's personal assistant, yes.
Yes, then the governor of Central Bank, Kotut. And the people, those are the main, and of course there were others there.
Years after this fraud took place, the ghost of Goldenberg still haunts Kenyans.
President Uhuru Kenyatta suspended Justice Joseph Mutava following recommendations by the Judicial Service Commission. The president has also formed a tribunal to investigate claims leveled against the judge. The JSC had recommended that a tribunal be set up to investigate his conduct on 3 counts of impropriety, which could lead to his dismissal from the judiciary. The judge was indicted on 2 grounds of interfering with the judgment of 2 other judges and favoring Goldenberg scandal mastermind Kamlesh Pattni.
I did address the issue in my opening remarks around Goldenberg, and I want to assure this committee and the country at large that my conscience is clear. My conscience is clear. This was a menace to this country. It was a program of export compensation, which was a policy position of the government of the day to try and spur exports in this country. And then it was abused. And in the process of it being abused, it caused havoc.
Goldenberg scandal from our perspective, is a good cautionary tale. As we know, despite the best intentions that the architects put forward, the Goldenberg scandal devastated the economy to the weakest we've ever been. We know, for instance, GDP growth fell to the lowest in the entire history of our country. Inflation surged to an all-time record of 61.5% in January 94. Treasury bill rates rose to a record 85% in July 93. Exchange rate depreciated by 143% between December 91 and December 93. The banking sector weakened, and as we all know, we had significant, several banks collapsed. Finally, and an important reminder on this, is the poor and vulnerable were hit the hardest as the price of essential commodities rose significantly.